Okay. Good evening, everybody. I call this public meeting of the North Clackamas School District Board of Directors to order on Thursday, November 7th at 6:16 p.m. We will now begin with the native land acknowledgement. Vice Chair Benaloga, will you lead the acknowledgement this evening?
Yes, thank you, Chairway. We acknowledge the land on which we sit and which we call the North Clackamas School District rests on the traditional and indigenous lands and village sites of the native peoples of the Kalapuya, Chinook, Malala, and the Clackamas. We take this opportunity to offer gratitude for the ability to learn, work, and be a community on this land. And we offer thanks to the original caretakers of this region. We recognize the historic policies of colonization, genocide, relocation, and assimilation that affected Indigenous and Native families both past and present, and that will affect those in the future. And we honor the resilience and revitalization of our Indigenous and Native communities. We pay our respect to the elders, both past and present, who have been the stewards of this land throughout the generations.
Thank you. And now, please rise for the flag salute. Director Kemp, will you lead the Pledge of Allegiance tonight?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you so much, board members. So this is a special board meeting that we have this evening to interview candidates for positions on the North Clackamas Budget Committee. The board declared the Budget Committee positions 13 and 14 vacant at its September 2020, I'm sorry, let me redo that. The board declared Budget Committee positions 13 and 14 vacant at its September 26, 2024 meeting. For position 14, applications were made available to the public with a deadline of October 18th, 2024. And we received 13 completed applications. Board members have independently reviewed and scored each of the applications. The two candidates being brought forward tonight scored the cumulative highest. We will bring one candidate in at a time with our board, asking the same 7 questions of each candidate. Each candidate will have 15 minutes to answer the questions. Upon completion of the interviews, board members will score each candidate. A rubric has been provided. Voting will be in open session at the next board meeting on Thursday, November 14th, 2024. The School District Board, in consultation with the Educational Equity Advisory Committee, must also reappoint or appoint a new member of the Educational Equity Advisory Committee to serve on the School District Budget Committee, currently position 13. So now, yes, thank you, Donna. We will begin with Keith O'Brien. He's our first candidate. Just also want to, just before we start, hello, just want to mention that we have had 3 people that were scheduled for interviews and a third person dropped out just today. So there's just 2 interviews this evening. But I'd like to welcome Keith O'Brien. Hello. Thank you so much for applying to be on the budget committee. Welcome. So do you have some questions in front of you that will be, that each of our board members will be saying in order. We have 15 minutes for this interview, so feel free to take as much time, little time as you'd like, but we have 15 minutes. And I will now turn it over to Director Bauer to ask the first question.
Hi. The first question is briefly explain your understanding of the public school budgeting process in Oregon and the role of a budget committee member.
It's only 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
I think that and so, oh, thank you. So you have to make decisions all the time that aren't just about numbers, but are about what you value as an organization and how you're going to achieve your mission with the funds that you have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mr. O'Brien. Thank you so much for being here. The second question for you is, how would you prioritize funding allocations within the school district's budget to ensure the needs of students, teachers, and staff are met? Also, how are the NCSD's strategic plan and the core values applied to budgeting needs?
Yeah, I think that I would prioritize funding allocations. First and foremost, you've got to start with what's required by law, right? There's a certain standard that law requires school districts to meet, so you've got to start there. And then you have whatever you kind of have left over, you can allocate, again, based upon the strategic plan and the core values of the organization. I think what I would look for are things that meet the needs of students, things that are trauma informed, things that recognize that the children in North Clackamas School District are diverse and each one has its own value and importance to them. And so I would look at all the information and weigh those out.
Yeah, thank you for being here tonight.
Absolutely.
So this question is, how should a school district address transparency, accountability in budgeting and financial decisions? And also, why is this important?
I think accountability is really important. It helps build trust with the organization and with the community that the school district is trying to support. And it really is basically the receipts, right? It's really the proof that you are doing what you say you're going to do. And so I think transparency is important. I think I would address it by being as honest as possible about what the organization values and how the district is making targeted investments based upon those values.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for your service to children in Clackamas County. My question is around working with others. And so, Mr. O'Brien, the budgeting process includes a variety of stakeholders, including other budget committee members, district administrators, and the public. Can you describe a situation that demonstrates your ability to work collaboratively with many stakeholders and how you would apply that experience to this role?
Yeah, that's a really good question. In my current job, I work with a lot of stakeholders just to work on policy and decisions that impact a lot of children. We work with the Clackamas County court system. We work with DHS. We work with attorneys. We work with lots of different partners to make sure that we're serving children and families. And we also work directly with the parents and with the children and with our nearly 200 volunteers who come from different backgrounds and different approaches to how they advocate for children in foster care. And so that's one example. Another example, in my previous work, I lived in Spokane and I worked for a nonprofit there and led a $15 million capital campaign project that was completely privately funded. And so you have to work with your construction partners, you have to work with your funders, you have to work with the people that you're serving directly and with your staff to make sure everyone has the same vision and can achieve the goal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Thanks for being here. My question is about community.
Yeah.
What strategies are most successful for engaging and involving the community in a public budgeting or resource allocation process? And how would you contribute to this effort?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think adding outside people to your committee is a great strategy for engaging and involving the community, because I'm a parent. My son just started kindergarten at Oregon Trail Elementary. And so engaging the community, or engaging community in this way, is one example. I think another way is really to align it, like I said, to your values as an organization. I think that's the most important way that you can involve the community, is really saying, here's everything that we value as a school district, and here's how we've invested based upon those values. And you don't have to go in the detail, but I think a clear vision of what the school district is trying to achieve over the next 1,000 days or 3 years, or however long your strategic plan is really important.
Great. Thank you so much. And I have the last question. So budgeting often involves making tough decisions about allocating limited resources. Can you provide an example from your experience where you were involved in making difficult financial decisions with limited resources and several high priorities? How did you handle it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Having a background in nonprofit work, you're always trying to work with very scarce resources. Sometimes you kind of hope and pray that everything comes together by the end of the fiscal year to make sure that you're able to serve everyone that you need to serve. And sometimes that means making tough decisions. Sometimes it means being really creative, thinking about, hey, what can we do to maybe add a volunteer for this area where we need some help? What can we do to really look at how we're spending in one area to help another? When I worked on the capital campaign, one of the things that we did to really drive down cost was meet with all of the suppliers, the vendors, the electricians, the plumbers, all of those people, and say, hey, here's our mission. Here's what we're working towards. What can we do to reduce that cost? What would that look like for you? And really lay out a plan with them prior to construction, so that we were able to really reduce costs by a good chunk and really stretch that dollar.
Great, thank you. So that was all of the questions from us. Do you have any questions for us as a board?
Yeah, I guess my question is, what do you see the biggest kind of budgeting challenge over the next, 3 years or so, and how's the board approaching that?
That's a really great question. I also have some friends in the crowd, so so I might also have to phone a friend. But you're absolutely right. I think the state school fund that we have is always challenged, right, with not getting enough resources to really serve every single student to the maximum potential that we can. And so our budgeting challenge is what other school districts are facing. And I'm proud to say that we have a very strong legislative advocacy partnership with our parents, with our school staff, board members, and we go down to Salem every legislative session and really talk to our lawmakers about just the needs that we have in our schools. So I would just say, just the overall picture, right, of the school funding that we have, and also just you mentioned this, just the high costs. There's inflation. There's lots of that is also something that we have to keep in mind. I don't know if others from our executive team want to add anything, but I would say those are the big ones. Okay, I see. That's great. So, any other questions?
I think that's it. I really appreciate your time and your service. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again for committing your time and applying for this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Look forward to it.
Thank you very much.
Oh, and I believe I have to, I'm sorry, I have to read this just so that you are also aware of next steps. Thank you,
Yeah.
Vice Chair Benaloga. So the board is scheduled to appoint the one committee position at the next board meeting, and that is on November 14th, 2024. And this meeting will be live streamed on YouTube, but all the candidates will also be notified of the board's decision afterward. So
Okay.
just some next steps.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Aaron. Hi, good evening. Can you say your last name? I just
Yeah, it's Ob.
Ob. Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure I get it right. So, okay, whenever you're ready, we can go ahead and get started
Sounds
with our
great.
questions. Great. Well, thank you so much. So, board, our next candidate is Aaron Ob. Welcome. Thank you so much for giving just your time with us this evening and also for applying to become a budget committee member. So, you'll have the questions that we will ask you in order in front of you. We have 15 minutes for the interview, up to 15 minutes, and each board member will start with our questions. And then if you have any questions for us, we have some time at the end for that as well.
Sounds great.
Great. Thank you.
Hi, I
Hello.
have the first one. Briefly explain your understanding of the public school budgeting process in Oregon and the role of a budget committee member.
Yeah, so the public school budgeting process is going to take the state or the funds that are allocated by the state as well as any local levies, and it's going to distribute that amongst the schools for various programs that support the education of the learners. The role of the committee member would be to act as an advisory role that will provide guidance during the budgeting process and review the final budget prior to distribution.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Ob. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
The second question for you is, how would you prioritize funding allocations within the school district's budget to ensure the needs of students, teachers, and staff are met? Also, how are the NCSD strategic plan and the core values applied to budgeting needs?
So when looking at the budget and looking at the allocation of the budget, I would focus on where it's going to make the largest impact to the learners. The ultimate goal and mission of the school district is to provide a safe learning environment for our students. Understanding that budget is not endless and that we would have to make some tough decisions, I would focus on prioritizing where it's going to make the largest impact for our students and provide them the most support. I do believe that this also aligns to the strategic plan and the core values of this school district by creating the best learning environment for our students.
Thank you for being here, Aaron. My question is, how should a school district address transparency and accountability in budgeting and financial decisions? And also, why is this important?
Yeah, I'll start with why it's important. It's important because we are asking voters oftentimes to pass bonds in order to raise funds for the students, and many of those voters may not even have students in the school district. That said, we obviously have overwhelming support of the community, seeing as the last bond passed by 73%, which is, again, amazing to see within the school district's community. That said, I do think that transparency is important, and I think that the district does a pretty good job as it is in posting the budget online where people have it readily available, and making it available to those who want to go through and read it. That said, I do think that there could be even more that's done, such as potentially housing a online meeting or in-person meeting where people can come and ask questions should they have them, and being able to explain the budget and where the money's going in terms that make sense to the average community member.
Good evening, Mr. Obb. Thank you for your interest in serving in this way. I have a question about working with others.
Yeah.
The budgeting process includes a variety of stakeholders, including other budget committee members, district administrators, and the public. Can you describe a situation that demonstrates your ability to work collaboratively with many stakeholders and how you would apply that experience to this role?
Yeah. So I'll draw from my professional experience. I'm currently the Associate Vice President of Customer Support for a company called Navix located in Lake Oswego. We provide ethics and compliance software for businesses. In that role, I do have to manage a budget, and I do need to work with other departments when building that budget. And obviously, every department and stakeholder is going to have their own list of priorities for things that they want to see included in that budget. Ultimately, I try to, in my professional environment, I try to bring people together and find that medium that we can all agree on. Whenever you're doing that, not everyone's going to get what they want. So it's really about trying to understand what is the importance to that person and how can we try to achieve it the best we can. Even if we can't get it to 100%, we can oftentimes get it there where everyone walks away a winner. And I'll just add one more thing. Communication is the most important part in any of that, is being able to talk to each other.
Thank you, Mr. Obb. My question is around community. What strategies are most successful for engaging and involving the community in a public budgeting or resource allocation process? And how would you contribute to this effort?
Yeah. Again, I think it all goes back to communication. I'm a firm believer that communication can solve many problems. And while my wife may not agree, I do see myself as a good communicator. Now, how can we engage with the public? It's really opening that dialogue, providing those avenues that the public can provide input and feedback, and making it as easy as possible. Not everyone's going to come down to a board meeting and express what their desires are, where they think funding should go, but they may fill out that online form or another avenue that we can set up. What I can bring to that is ideas, a fresh perspective. As having 2 students in the district myself, I know the challenges that parents face in trying to manage, school activities along with work, along with sporting events and everything. So, I can bring that perspective to the committee.
Okay, thank you again, Mr. Robb. So I have the last question. So budgeting often involves making tough decisions about allocating limited resources. Can you provide an example from your experience where you were involved in making difficult financial decisions with limited resources and several high priorities? How did you handle it?
Yeah, so again, drawing from my professional experience as working at a software company, we have a lot of demands by our customers, our board, and even our employees to be able to provide new solutions. A recent example of this is really trying to bring new technology into the organization that's going to directly impact our customers. What we have to weigh in that situation is the time that we have to spend with our developer resources, along with the money that it's going to cost, and the length of time. And ultimately, it's making a decision on where is the best way to spend the money. Is it on our individual people that is doing the work, or is it on hiring an outside company to come in and do that work for us, and what's going to provide the best experience and the biggest return on investment? And so through, again, that collaboration and communication and having people who have all kinds of different opinions, getting them in the room and kind of talking and coming up with the solution, ultimately knowing that realistically everyone wants the same outcome, which is, a positive environment.
Okay, thank you. And the last question is, do you have any questions for us?
I guess I did have one question, which is, how does the district or the board measure success of budget allocation in supporting the strategic goals outlined in the district strategic plan?
That is a very great question. Data, yes. Yes. So we are actually at a time right now where we are going to be closing out our current strategic plan, embarking in planning for the next one for the next several years. And we rely heavily on data as well as metrics. We also have our just the expertise of our chief financial officer, because as you can imagine, we have a large budget, right? Lots of different departments. And so we also rely on their expertise to also let us know, hey, these are things that we need to be looking out for. And as a board, I think we're in meetings where we can ask those questions openly. We also, as board members, are also invited to be part of budget committee meetings as well. So I think we engage in a very robust conversation, not just beginning of the budget, end of the budget cycle, but just throughout the entire year of asking really good questions, so that there isn't any surprises right at the end of the budget cycle, but that we are continuing to just ask really good questions. And also, again, just, really relying on our not only budget committee members, but also our staff that do the professional work.
That's great. I do also oversee our data analytics team at Navix as well. So talking data, I love that.
Yes.
When you look at data, it tells a story. So
Absolutely. Yes.
and I think that's the only question I had.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for your time and being here, and again, applying. Just a couple of things for next steps. So the board is scheduled to appoint the one committee position at the November 14th, 2024 board meeting. This meeting will be live streamed on YouTube, but all candidates will be notified of the board's decision afterward. So
That's great. Thank you all
Yes.
for your time. I appreciate it.
thank you. Take care. So we are opening up some time for discussion, reflections, if board members would like to share. And first, I just, I know the candidates have left, but I want to thank our two candidates that were able to be here tonight. Again, this is, we all know this is a volunteer role, and they, also are committing a large part of their time in serving on the budget committee. So really just, again, want to thank everyone who's expressed interest in applying. And we know that the budget is the North Star, right? The guiding light of our district in terms of how we allocate resources, how we look at the bigger picture of, where are we really putting our resources into with regards to all of the different goals and metrics that we have forward. So, just want to again thank everybody for helping to get us to this point of organizing the budget committee interview, as well as the questions. And before I talk about just next steps for the board meeting, do we have any feedback that folks want to share about our candidates? If not, I can say something, but Director Bauer, do you want to chime in? Oh, and Mike, yes.
Both really good candidates. Hard to score. just because I saw a few different things with each. They were both passionate about kids. They seemed to really understand the needs and equity and filling in the gaps, and they are connected. One is maybe just kind of starting out with his kids in school, but working for CASA, that's great too. I mean, he had a lot of nonprofit, and the second with data, and good questions. So good candidates.
Agreed. Well, so just next steps, board. As I mentioned, we will be voting at the next board meeting. And if you have any notes or scoring that you have made during this process, you may give them to Donna either this evening or at the next board meeting. Okay, so with that being said, it is now 6:46 p.m. and this public meeting of the North Clackamas School District Board of Directors